As of late, I've been making a lot of changes to improve the feel of my game, especially by using graphical effects. For example, enemies now leave behind small particle trails, and the player briefly flashes when destroying them, among many other satisfying visual adjustments. But at one point, I decided to implement hit stop, which means that whenever you destroy an enemy, the game pauses for a few frames to give the attack much more impact. And it worked very well, but maybe too well. At first it was very fun to see it in action, but the charm eventually wore off, and it just became more irritating than anything to have the game pause for so long. If I kept it like this, it would absolutely make the game miserable to play, so I decided to make the hit stop shorter. But then it just felt insignificant, so I decided to remove it altogether. But something really interesting happened when I did that. Compared to before, destroying enemies now felt kind of airy in a way, like they don't really pose much resistance. This actually has the effect of feeling really empowering, which has its own sense of impact. So I was kind of lost at what to do. I still liked the impact that the hit stop provided, but it was obvious that it would be a bit too much if it occurred every time you destroyed an enemy. What I needed was to find some kind of condition that's less common than a normal attack, but more significant. And then it hit me. It just so happens that in my game, there's this mechanic where after destroying a few enemies, you can use an electric sort of attack to deal damage from a distance. If I play the hit stop only during these attacks, it fixes my problem of the game stopping too often, while also highlighting the effect of this extra strong ability. And so, although it took a lot of tweaking, I finally settled on a solution I was happy with. I had a similar experience working on a different graphical effect. During gameplay, you make more progress the further you are from the core, and the faster you're traveling. This information is shown on the core, but I wanted to make that information easily accessible without filling up the edges of the screen. So I had the idea to add this bar underneath the player that gets bigger the more progress you're making. Although I liked the initial implementation, I had to take some simple steps to make it less distracting by reducing its opacity and, interestingly enough, making it flash with the player. I initially expected it to draw more attention while flashing, but I think it's actually more distracting when it doesn't flash, because it appears out of sync from the player. But there was a final problem I just couldn't resolve. Because the player has the ability to move right up to the edge of the screen, the bar becomes hidden when the player is on the bottom. Considering that you're directly incentivized to go this far out, this situation was unacceptable. I tried to make the bar move up when necessary, but this looked horrific. I tried to make it switch player sides, same thing. I also don't really want to rotate it, since that might make it harder to read. No good solutions were coming up, but in my despair I thought of something absolutely genius. Just add a duplicate bar on top. Sure, you now have 2 bars, which is a bit unnecessary, but this guarantees that at least one of them is always visible, and removes the need for any distracting movements. It also has the added benefit of looking more symmetrical. Overall, I think these additions do a great job of making the game feel more exciting. Although they created some unexpected challenges, I found that with a bit of creative thinking, it's actually possible to integrate them well without compromising the experience too much. Thanks for watching. Bye.